Okay, so she's getting ready to leave me. I've had two starts already, but I gotta include her. This is a really exciting moment because Zibby's not normally on the bed, and she put herself up here, but she's getting ready to leave me, so had to get her in again, and now she's on her bed. So um, I had a video 4 minutes in, and Gidget started barking, and then everybody's doing their thing, and then she got up and was in get off the bed mode. And then it's like, well, I don't really want the barking part in there, and maybe we can try it again without that. But, I don't know. Anyway, she's not on the bed now, so no more other starts because I wanted the one where Zivvy's on the bed first. Um, yes. Okay. So yesterday, we went over to my uncle's house for Christmas with my dad's side of the family. And this is the uncle that recently moved up here and is living with his girlfriend. And the last time we were over there, I think it was basically a welcome home thing for after my uncle moved back up. But we had a little get together over at their house, and there was this a little debacle of sorts, in which my father messed himself, and there was a big whole ordeal about getting that cleaned up. It made it to the bathroom, thankfully, but there was still a mess. Last night ended the same way. And people can say a lot of things, but I'm confident that it's like, okay, there is probably not necessarily a cognizant awareness of what's happening, as far as my parents go. But it's like if I show up, there are going to be things, and opportunities for the family to pull me back into being all concerned about my parents and trying to pull me into the chaos and, get reconnected on sucking the life out of me kind of a thing, right? And I've talked a lot on here about how anytime I was available in the past for like my grandmother or grandfather whenever they would fall, and there at the end, they were literally taking turns trying to see who brought in more attention from the kids and the grandkids, on their little downhill numbers or whatever, until the final fall that, basically locked things up and, was the grand finale for my grandfather, if you will, where he broke his femur and then then had to go be in the hospital. And yes, my grandma fell one day when we were going out to eat after we left him at the rehab hospital. Don't you do it. Don't you dare do it. She started staring out the window in the direction of my aunt and uncle's house. Now she's just going to judge me. Yes, thank you. Okay. But yeah, it's like every time I was around, it's like more dumb shit would happen. So as I've started disconnecting myself from that, they're having a much more difficult time getting me pulled back in to, essentially the purpose I served in this family was, they latch on to my energy, suck the life out of me, and it prolongs their lives, right? That's the ultimate thing that has always been happening. And it took me to this point in my life to realize that was the thing that was happening. And it's like every time something good happened, there was something would come up for my family to sabotage it for me. So it was like, if I did something, bear picture, contest, where, I won, right? So I won the zoo's contest with that picture. At the beginning of this year, and then within a half an hour of finding out that I won, my parents found a way to make it this. They like gotten. Basically, my mom was trying to push me to include my father in, getting this thing printed off, because I needed to print off this form to give the zoo permission to use my picture in their magazine. And the glitch that I had was I hit print on my phone before I remembered to check to make sure the printer was actually on. And it caused a little bit of a hiccup, and it took a little extra time for me to get it all sorted out, just because I don't know the way the stupid thing is. It was an ordeal, right? But I was going to figure it out. I was not trying to pull them into it. Well, since my mom asked me what I was doing, and I said, I goofed and hit print before it was on, and now it's kind of being a pain in the butt. She's like, oh, well, ask your dad. It's like, I don't need to ask my dad. I'm going to figure this out. And, but he starts in with the sarcastic remarks, and basically, because you're too stupid to figure this out kind of perspective, and it ended up hijacking the moment. So like within a half an hour of finding out that I won this thing with my contest, or with my bear picture, I won this contest, they found a way to hijack it and make it a mess. So I spent the rest of the day crying. Like, I don't know that they knew that I was crying the rest of the day, but they knew that I didn't want to be around them, and that I was snippier, and all those things. So essentially, that's that little narcissistic supply piece, right? They got a reaction out of me, and that was all they needed, because that was a means of sucking the life out of me and something that had gone well for me in the moment, right? Because I'm not supposed to have things go well for me. I'm supposed to be available for them to suck the life out of me, period. Right? So this is a whole long journey of trying, or of essentially coming to realize that has been my purpose in this family. So, as I have set more and more boundaries and been available less and less to their drama, they've gone noticeably downhill, right? And that was one of the things I said with my grandfather. It's like, as soon as I started setting boundaries, it was noticeable immediately. Like when I stopped being around all the time, it's like there was a noticeable shift in his health, right? And it was like he and my grandmother, my father, and my mother, like all of them, it was like noticeable for me, right? So I start setting the boundaries and doing the things and realizing that something's changing, and I start talking to my brother about it, and he sees it. And then I start kind of, sharing with my brother what I'm learning to set boundaries with the family and to disconnect from them. And as he starts doing that, like, it gets even more noticeable, right? It becomes an even more drastic thing. And eventually he and his family moved away to Oklahoma, and I was very much a supportive component on that, and it was like, yes, if you can get out of here, get the fuck up out of here, because this is not a good situation. And I was actually thinking about this recently too, and I've talked about it on here before as well. When I helped my brother go to Oklahoma, he took the moving truck full of their stuff. My sister-in-law was already out there staying with her brother because she had started her job already, and I drove the Edge with Gracie and their 2 dogs and Ziva, right? So we all had this big road trip, right? And the car was full of their stuff as well. Of course, a bag for me for a couple days and whatnot. But one of the things I've been thinking about recently was the entire way out to Oklahoma. It was good. It was a great trip, right? Relatively uneventful, which is good. And, me and Gracie had good conversations in the car and whatnot, and the dogs were all okay. And then, of course, we have this system that we come up with where, of course, we get to a rest stop, and then, she and I make the first stop for a bathroom break, and then, come out and walk the dogs around and give them a bathroom break, and then fill up the gas tank, right? It's like we have the system, and it was a smooth trip, right? On the way back, it was fine. It was just me and Ziva, but it was still relatively peaceful, smooth trip. I'm jamming out to my music in the car and learning new things, having new insights and whatnot come to me while I'm driving. And as soon as I hit the Indiana border, it was like the image that I have is like the what is it like? Okay, like in movies or whatever, where there's like a castle and there's like something they're pulling up the thing or putting it down to come over the water to go back into the safe space, the castle or whatever, right? That chain, right, as it's being raised or lowered. It's like as soon as I hit the Indiana border, it was like there was that sensation of being pulled back into the icky, gross energy. And I know I'm not explaining that very well, like as far as what it is exactly that I'm seeing. I can see the chain, and that's the thing that comes to mind, but I don't know that that's the best means of explaining it. But as soon as I hit that border, it was just like, just immediately sucking the life out of you kind of a thing. And at one point, when I stopped for a bathroom break, I sent my brother a message just like, what is it about the Indiana border? It's like it's suddenly just, I said the trip was great, everything was great until I hit that border, and then it's like, I'm going back into it, right? And, he was talking about how he completely understood the feeling, and he said that he's had that the last several times that they went anywhere, as soon as they got back to the border, then it was just like, just that overwhelming, burdensome feeling, right? Just sucking the life out of you because you're close enough, right? You're coming back. And it's like, yeah, that's I'm not a fan, right? So, so we have the shared experience of it, and I haven't gone anywhere since then. That was beginning of August, I think, when I was coming back. Pretty sure, because it was like the very end of July, like the last couple days when we went out there, if I'm remembering correctly. So as I'm trying to remain disconnected from my family, it's always noticeable when they're trying to pull you back in, right? Do the things to get you excited about. Like, okay, like the damn puppy that my mom kept trying to get me on board with, and then I was, the entire time, like from the day Holly died on January 1st of this year till the day they got that other dog, right? The rescue dog. It's like, you don't need another dog. Do not get another dog. And they got another dog anyway, right? But like when my mom was trying to get me on board with the whole thing, it was, she'd be like, come in here. We need to have a conversation. It's like, no, we don't. I can promise you whatever you're going to say. No, we don't need to have this conversation. And, I go in there, and then she'd say, do you think Taz would do better with an older puppy or a younger puppy? It's like, no puppy. We do not want a puppy, right? Because I do not want another thing to have to worry about to take care of, right? And like I said that many times in this space, is the whole reason they wanted another dog was to lock me in to have to take care of things further, right? Because they couldn't get to me because I've been able to set boundaries and realize that, realize all the little ways they're like constantly poking and trying to get back in to get some sort of reaction from me so they can suck the life out of me further, right? So, and that was all the deal with that dog was too, right? So, they end up getting the rescue dog, and it goes exactly as I said it was, and I said it would, and said, they didn't need one because I didn't want to have to do the work, because I knew they weren't going to do the work, and even, like when my mom's trying to get me all excited about getting a puppy or whatever, she was talking about, or I said, I don't want something else to take care of. I already have 3 dogs. And she said, well, you wouldn't be taking care of it. We'd be doing it. Unless we have to go to the hospital, which, mind you, there's been like, I want to say at least 4 of those trips this year. Because my father having his first stroke because he took himself off of his meds, her falling and breaking her wrist after she found out for sure that my brother was moving. And, then my father stopped using a CPAP machine for 2 weeks and had more strokes. And then my mother fell and broke her back, right? Just like everything that I was talking about was coming true, right? It was like demonstrating itself in the live space, right? So, quit staring at me like that. Get just staring at me from the foot of the bed. But yeah, so like there's 4 trips right there. And of course that was me having to take care of their dog that I didn't want to get because I knew all the work for it would fall to me. And then when it went missing, right, then it was on me to do the thing so they got their dog back. It's like, no. And I even told my one aunt last night, it's like, I said, I am stubborn enough that I would not have given up that chase, except that I felt like I was being like divinely blocked. It's like, because, she stopped at one point by the road and I pulled off enough to try to get her in the car, and then it had rained like the 3 days before that. And, the car sunk because I ended up off the road more than I had anticipated. And then it was a problem because when I got back in the car, when she started moving in, then I sunk further, and ended up, it was a big hot mess. But then it's like, in that process of getting so hung up, then I lost sight of her. It's like, and then while I was waiting on my uncle to come with his truck and tow me out of the mud, you brought ice in, dude. When I was waiting on my uncle to show up with his truck, there were 2 bald eagles flying overhead, like just circling right above me. And it's like, nobody else noticed it until I pointed it out. And then my uncle and one aunt saw it. But it's like, to me, that was a sign that this part of that part of this journey was not my lesson, right? It's like everything with that rescue dog situation turned out exactly how I knew it was going to. They did not do jack shit with it. It fell to me to, if any time was spent with that dog, working on getting her more used to the space, or including her, with the walks to be part of the pack and all that stuff, it was on me, right? Otherwise it didn't happen. And, like I could even say, you need to have her on the leash and keep her with you so she can't run off, and get her used to spending time with you. And they wouldn't do it, right? They might do it for 10 minutes here or there, and then my dad's taking the leash off, losing the leash too, and it's like, this is going exactly like I knew it would, right? So then when I got stuck, just like the way everything happened with her getting off of, or out, slipping the collar and then taking off, it's like, just everything that came up, it was like, I feel like I'm being divinely blocked. It's like, no, you're not doing this. So just kind of, yeah, like the lesson wasn't for me, right? That was one of my big lessons in the past couple years. Like, I think that came up when my dad's youngest sister's husband died, 2024. It's like, I know I'm supposed to be a healer and I'm supposed to be able to help on things and whatnot. And it's like, but I could not do, there was nothing I could do. And the lesson that I learned through that experience is, it was like, it was very frustrating for me because it's like, I know I'm supposed to be a healer at some level. I don't know what it's supposed to look like, but it's very frustrating because I feel disconnected from it. But then the point that I've been disconnected from it was exactly the point. It's like, one of my big lessons for this lifetime is knowing I cannot fix everything for everybody, right? Like, essentially, where I've been with my family is, they just, kind of latch on to my energy and suck the life out of me because I'm worried about catering to shit for them and making things easier on them. But I don't know what their soul lessons are here. So for me to, be constantly giving of my time and energy to people that really do not give a shit about fixing anything, is because I don't know what they came here to learn, right? I don't know what their purpose in this life space is, what they wanted, what their souls wanted to learn, or any of that. But because of that, I cannot get in the way of anybody else's lessons, right? That's my big lesson, is I cannot fix things for everybody. It's not my job, for one thing. So as I've been disconnecting from my family, there's all this other stuff that comes up where it's like, going back to that idea of like the narcissistic family super self, right? So that's one of those things I picked up from Jerry Wise in his videos, where he talks about how, as you're scapegoated when you suddenly are doing things that make the family uncomfortable or that pose a threat to the narcissistic system, then the ones that aren't necessarily the narcissists per se suddenly shift into action on fulfilling their role of pulling you back into the chaos, right? Because you're not supposed to be able to escape the chaos. And especially as a scapegoat, right? If the scapegoat escapes the chaos, then somebody else is going to have to fulfill that role, right? So, of course, the system doesn't want anybody escaping their roles, because you have defined roles for a reason, right? I was the scapegoat because I was the one that saw through the bullshit and would call things out. Mainly questioning them. Why are things you're saying this, but you're acting this way, and I don't understand why there's a disconnect, right? Like, asking the questions that threatened the narcissistic elements' way of being and their illusion. So, so once the scapegoat stops being able to be pulled into the chaos all the time, somebody else is going to have to fulfill that role unless they can get you back, right? So what happens is, most often they try to get you back, right? They try to, like my mom's youngest sister for a while, last summer, or I guess summer 2024, I was talking to her, because like we go through phases, and it's like we won't talk for a while, and then she'll be really concerned and asking me all these questions. And it was something with my dad, and like, of course, I'm processing through all these stories about things with my dad in this space, and realizing how much of a bully he's been, right? And how much, like going back to that idea of when I believed that I needed something outside of myself to save me. And so I needed either my dad or my brother to tell me, or to basically give me permission to not marry my ex. It's like, I don't know. It's like I picked the worst possible option to force them to have the opportunity to say, no, that not this one. This is a bad one, not this one, right? But they didn't do that, so I felt like I had to go through with it. I had no other choice but to suck it up and marry the guy because they didn't say I didn't have to, right? And, you know, that going back to that conditioning piece. But what I realized is when I got divorced, it's like the idea that I needed something outside of me to save me, or that I was somebody else's property or I was somebody's property until I was somebody else's property. It's like that whole bullshit idea was the exact thing that got me stuck, right? And it like basically made me feel like I had no choice but to ignore my intuition as I'm walking down the aisle and it's screaming at me, what are you doing? You don't even like him, let alone love him. Why are you going through with this? You know, and for whatever reason at that point in time, I felt stuck and felt like I had no other choice but to do it, right? Because I was pushing 30, you know, so then we got all that like spinster mentality things and, you know, being a burden to the family, and yet that was essentially what they wanted me to do, is not have a life I was supposed to. It was basically, I was given the opportunity to go try life, and when I realized it wasn't a good one, I would come back to the other one that sucked, right? And they wouldn't tell you that it sucked. It's just, that's totally me. But, you know, to come back into the space of, okay. The reason I was able to go through with the marriage to my toxic ex was because of my toxic family, which set me up to be more comfortable in always dealing with chaos rather than being able to have any peace, right? So like, that's one of the biggest things, like, okay, when I painted my chaos walls, which this is not near as chaotic as the other two that I'm like across from. When I painted it and got it out of my system and then was just sitting there and looking at it, it's like, oh, that was all just in me until I painted it out of my system. And it's like, now I feel like I can breathe because it's not in my system anymore, right? But that's like with my family, you know, and ultimately with the society that I think, you know, we exist in, is keep us in the chaos to prevent us from being able to create something better, right? Because if all you're able to do is look around and see chaos all the time, then you don't have the realization that there is, that peace is even a thing, right? That is a very good thing. Yeah, this is, I don't know. One of the things that, okay, so it was on that end with the chaos and whatnot. Part of that, you know, I've talked on here a lot about how the situation that I'm in, having to live in my parents' house post-divorce, you know, and haven't managed to find my way out of it yet. It's very frustrating. But ultimately, like I was, as I've said many times in this video even, I was not raised to have my own life, right? So that being the case, you know, I felt, okay, so I set the intention when I got the nose ring and the lip ring that I would never again work in a job that asked me to be anything other than 100% who I am. So the first thing that went was the job that I had, right? And after that, like I was working respite care with Gracie for a little while, until she moved. So I had a little bit of an income in that time, and it worked well, because I was spending time with her anyway. However, once she moved, it's been more of a pain, because it's like, it's frustrating not knowing where the money's coming from, right? It's one of those big things with my family is that scarcity mindset, and there's never going to be enough and all this crap. But when I realized like all the ways that ultimately my family sabotaged me from being able to have my own life, I got to a point where it's like, you know what? If they would have allowed me space to figure this stuff out when I was, covered by their insurance until 26 or whatever, and when, all these other things were already there, I could have my own existence right now. They didn't set me up to do that. Since they didn't set me up to do that, and now I'm trying to figure out how to do that, they're just going to have to deal with it. Because, like, the biggest piece is the world tries to keep us so busy that we're not able to take space to make the connections that we're here to make, and learn how to utilize the gifts and abilities that we came here with to make this world a better place, right? The chaotic existence didn't want us to do that. They wanted to keep us in the chaos so we could never do anything better, and that's been one of my big frustrations, like with my father especially. It's like, he flat out has no intention of doing anything worthwhile now. It's, haha, now you have to take care of me, kind of a bullshit thing. Or, now you have to deal with me, right? So, like, when I would try to clean the living room area, because that's where most of my stuff was, my stuff that's not in my room, like my skate stuff. I would have my skate stuff out to dry on my dog crate, right? And then I would go in the room and, his shit would be creeping into my stuff, right? Whether it be like a Diet Coke bottle, a dirty fork, napkin, his blanket, his hoodie, whatever in my stuff. So I would have to deal with his stuff to get to my stuff, right? So what I realized was I needed to stop having my stuff everywhere. So there was a time I had my storage unit, and that was immensely helpful, right? Because that was how I realized I needed to start disconnecting from my ex. So then once I made that connection, it's like, I've already done this before, so I got the storage unit down the street, and moved a bunch of stuff into it. And it was really good for a time. Well, then I got to a point where it's like, okay, now the money is not as readily available to make the payment, and I don't want to lose access to my stuff or lose my stuff because I was unable to make the payment. So it's like, okay, so yeah, and it also served the purpose when I had it of being able to keep things there that I had listed for sale, and then once somebody commented or like contacted me about wanting something, then we just meet over the storage unit, get it out of there, and it was a lot easier to deal with, right? And at some point, it was the day I started thinking about, I think it's time to move out of the storage unit because the money situation, and there was 3333. My brain stuttered. The day that I made that decision, I was laying there and I was trying to figure it out, because it's like part of the reason that I got the storage unit was to keep my space separate from my parents' stuff, right? So their stuff isn't just creeping in and taking over every time I have stuff in a space. Well, then I got to thinking, it's like the closet in the office is my space, and that was one of those things that my mom said if I cleared the junk out of it, then she would let me use that space, right? It's like, all right, deal. So I moved all the junk out of it, and then I ended up with 2 rooms, right? Because I got my bedroom, which has a ton of shit in it anyway, but then also my office, and of course we've thinned things out a ton in the time that I've been here because, I no longer have reptiles. When I moved back, I had 2 leopard geckos, which I'd had before my ex, so that they were no big deal. But then I had 2 bearded dragons that of course were in separate cages or separate tanks. And I had like, I think 10 birds at one point. So I had this big ass cage and then another cage. It's like, this is a whole lot of birds. This is a whole lot of shit, right? So then as the reptiles died off and as the birds have died off, it's like, as they go, I'm not replacing them. I do not want more. So, that was one thing that's happened that has helped me clear up a bunch of space. I'm down to 2 birds now. But when it came to the storage unit and thinking through that, because I realized that I didn't really have that much stuff in storage after I was selling things off. Some of it is like, I did get some furniture from my cousin, who decided he was just going to throw it in the trash. And it's like, well, if you don't want it, I'll take it. And then I ended up selling it and getting money out of it. So it's like, this is a good thing, right? So there's been a lot of stuff like from my cousin, from my brother and sister-in-law, stuff that they didn't want, but they were just going to like pitch or donate or whatever. It's like, well, I'll take it. And then, it got to a point where it's like, okay, so some of this stuff, it's like, if I don't sell it, I like it, so I would keep it. Like, there's this one table that I really liked that Gracie had drawn a little 7 on. And I think she did it when she was, I think she did it because she was 7. But for whatever reason, just a little 7 at the back corner of the table. It wasn't really noticeable until you got right up on it. But I had a few people that talked to me about it, and that was one of those things. It's like, I really like this table, and if it doesn't sell, I'd be perfectly okay keeping it. But then it's like, also, if I get money out of it, that would also be helpful. So I'll take it too, right? So that table it did get sold. I think it was one of the last things I sold. But then it was just like, as that stuff has been, like my cousin's stuff went from my aunt's house to my storage unit. Hold on. Okay. Peppy thought she heard something. They've been gone long enough. So I just went ahead and fed them. Anyway, so like the bigger purpose that the storage unit ended up serving was to be a space where I could have some of my stuff out of the way here, but then have this other stuff that passed through for a time, right? So, my cousin, he's moved into a place with his partner. He isn't going to just like have anything else readily available for me to potentially take on or anything. My brother and sister-in-law moved out in Oklahoma, so like that's not a thing either, right? So now that there's not going to be the need to hold space for things to pass through, and like the bed was a big one. Like this bed I really liked, but I was thinking that if I that was not a good idea. I gotta push my bed shifting away from the wall or the mattress it's against. Okay. But so I didn't want to get rid of the other bed because I was thinking when I move out, then I could leave that one behind so my parents could have a bed in the guest room, right? And then it's like, well, I could sell this one, I guess. And then, we were talking about it, and my mom's like, well, just trade them out and get rid of the other one. It's like, okay. It wasn't hard to talk me into that one because I was thinking about using this one anyway, like in a different house situation, and I didn't want to take any chances on like rodents or anything getting into it or bugs, it being in the storage unit when it's freaking cold out, right? So it's like 5 degrees today, right? So like as I've made different decisions and, had the space to be able to consider things differently, it made it easier to be able to get rid of some stuff and to realize what I, absolutely don't need, or even want for that matter. Like we had this, okay, so one of those 3-drawer storage container things. So you can put like, I have one that has like paint or art supplies in it that I'm looking at. but there was one of those that came out of the old camper, right? So I sold it. You know, it was like maybe used twice. It didn't really, there was nothing wrong with it. Didn't even have the wheels on it. I think the wheels were still in the plastic. So I sold that, right? And then I found another one in the shed. It's like, shit, sell that. So I sold that one too. And then I came up with, when I, made the decision to sell or get rid of the storage unit, it's like, I have a closet in here that's full of my mom's shit. If I clear all of that out and put my shit in it, then it doesn't look like my shit's all over the place in the house, right? So I started clearing my mom's shit out, and she got pissed because, of course, when my shit's everywhere, then she can, somebody comes in the house, she can blame me because I moved back into her space, right? But since my stuff is now put into this other closet, her stuff, she's having to look at it, and it's pissing her off because, just because it was out of sight, out of mind before. And now, since my stuff is contained a little bit better and not all over the place, like it was, then she's having to realize that maybe her shit's more of the problem than she wanted to believe, right? So when I was clearing out that closet, I found this other storage container like that, 3 drawers and everything. And I think that's going to be a delivery truck probably coming back here, so I have to be ready to pause in case the dogs go off. But, I clear out this thing because it had like, okay, first off, I've discovered I have like 3 almost brand new boxes of like 96 crayons. Right? So, yeah, we're good. Hold on. Okay, it didn't go anywhere, but he saw me look out the window, and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And he just staring at me, and then he came over for a moment. But we're gonna pause. All right, we somehow managed to have a delivery without anybody going off. So I'm impressed. However, Gidget's bringing me a ball now, so anyway. So, yeah, so, okay, so I've been spending some time with this idea too, right? So, ultimately, it's like what the outward representation of what I'm doing is ultimately clearing up space, right? At this deeper level. And, of course, as I clean up space in my physical environment, it cleans up space energetically, and that has been huge. Right? So like one of my frustrations that I don't think I finished talking about was, since I wasn't able to figure out some of this stuff in my earlier years, like when I was covered by my parents' insurance and all that stuff, now it's just like, you're just gonna have to deal with me figuring it out. So it's basically like right now I don't have a steady income, but really it's like, for me to do the healing work that I've been doing, the biggest thing is I've needed the space to be able to figure things out, right? I needed to clear the junk from my physical space so I can organize things better internally, right, at this energetic level. So, so as I have cleaned the closet in the other room and now only have my stuff in there, I still have space in that closet. I have space in this closet. And, because of course when I had my stuff moved over to the storage unit, I was like taking stuff out of the closets to get them out of the space. And now it's like, all right, well now I can put it back in there because it's a space that I have available, right? So I have this Foot Locker that I tried to sell once and my mom got in the way of. So I ended up keeping it. And I was thinking this morning, actually, like one of the things that I do is I need space for rest, right? Like that is one of the biggest things right now is I need the space to rest, to be able to make connections on this other level, right? So, so I went to bed. I think I went to sleep at like around midnight, and I woke up at 2:59. And for some reason, I thought it was like 11 something. I thought I actually went to bed earlier, and it's like, oh, no, I didn't. Okay, but anyway, so I lay there for a while because I was really tired and I wanted to go back to sleep. But then that's like, next thing I know, it's 3:15, and it's like, well, I'm going to go ahead and feed the dogs. So I did that, and then I went back to bed and was laying there. And then I started thinking about weird things like, okay, so one of the things that I was thinking about was, I've talked on here a few times before about how I had this moment when I was 8 that I almost drowned in the ocean. I got caught in an undertow, and my dad couldn't swim either, so he didn't know how to get me out. He almost drowned as well, and we had a family friend that died in 2024 that was able to get us both out of the undertow and save both of our lives. So, in that moment and ever since then, I always felt like it was like that moment. Yes, there was this thing that I almost drowned in this lifetime, but what if it was a callback to another lifetime where I actually did drown? And then I was thinking about how, like, along the same lines, like, when I was in undergrad, I got really into big band and swing music. And, like this, 1930s style jewelry that they were selling at Kohl's. Like a bunch of things like from this general time frame, and it seemed like there was more to it, right? So it was this phase that I went through where I was really into the music, and of course I still love swing music. I listened to it way less than I did back then, but I still love it, right? And just like different things from that kind of time period. But then I was wondering, it's like, okay, so I've thought before, what if that was a callback to another life, right? So that, I got really into the music and the style and things from this time frame because I actually lived in that time frame in another lifetime, right? So I was making all these kind of connections, and I was thinking about how, like if something traumatic happens in a past lifetime, that basically gets stuck in your pain body. I'm going to have to get that damn bird. Hold on. Okay. He had food, but it wasn't in the right bowl. Birds are finicky. So anyway, so if you have an experience in a past life and it's traumatic, then it basically gets stuck in your pain body and you carry it with you. So like the traumas that I faced in this life weren't exclusively from this life. Right now, of course, I've had to navigate through them with this lifetime in mind because this is the only one I really have access to. But at the same time, like as I've done all the videos that I've cried through, right? It's like the authentic tears, right, from the feeling through the traumas of this lifetime. As I've cried those out of my system, it's also helping to alleviate these other lifetimes where there were traumatic things that happened. And another thing that I was thinking about too is I remember when I was in high school, I had like the strong fear of, I was convinced that for a while that I wasn't going to see my 16th birthday, my 18th birthday, my 21st birthday, my 30th birthday. It's like all these big kind of landmark type time frames. It's like I thought I wasn't going to make it to those. What if part of that concern was because in past lives I didn't, right? So as I was thinking through all of that this morning, I got to thinking about the current political sphere of things in the world. And it's like, if it's true that the things that I've had as callbacks in this, or the things that I've seen as callbacks to other lifetimes in my existence, then it would also kind of make sense that that would be true on the, the world stage as well, right? In the political space. So, like the is what's going on with the American government kind of one of those things of where like the remnants of the Roman Empire really didn't want to die. It's like, and like the, all the other empires along the way that have fallen, and it's like they, there's the time, they have a time where they're building and doing the thing, but then it starts crumbling because they have a really shitty foundation that's built on fucking people over. And so what we're seeing playing out is like actual is like people who were doing, structures that were existing to have the same types of things happen. But what if like the dipshits in charge that shouldn't be in charge are trying to play out former life existences as well, right? So then that started this whole thing, and I woke up and spent some time writing, and this is exactly why it's so important for me to have the space and time to rest, right? And to clear things out, because then as I have the space, I can start making these really weird ass connections on a bigger level, but also they translate at a much deeper level as well. So, look, I had a hint of a thought in there. Oh, when I've talked about how like my grandfather's death feels like it was also somehow a start piece in like some of the, not start, but it's like the stuff that's going on in my family existence is also somehow playing out on a larger scale on the world stage. Like the things I'm learning that I'm seeing from this personalized space with my own family is like the very root of the system that allowed for this big hot mess that's in place, culturally speaking, to exist, right? Because, like the idea that, my grandfather was all about keeping his illusion of the big happy family alive, right? As long as the illusion is alive and there's people willing to buy into it, then, he was free to do whatever the fuck he wanted and not have a worthwhile existence where anything of note happened or anything. But, and he could deny that his family wasn't happy because they were around all the time. It was the illusion of the happy family because they were compliant in wanting to spend the time with him, but it wasn't because they really wanted to spend the time with him so much as he was hounding them about spending time with them because he wanted the illusion of the big happy family, right? And then, of course, as I'm stepping apart from that and realizing these other things, I can I comment all the time on random posts where it's like something that I feel like I've learned in my lived experience I can share because it translates somehow to the situation that I'm seeing, right? And then other people can, have the opportunity to take it or leave it, right? But that's like, it's basically the space to process the things, right? So then I was thinking, and we're getting close to, we're going to wrap it up soon, so, because we're a little long today. But as I'm thinking about like all of that stuff, I start thinking about, okay, I've talked about how with my counterpart, there was somebody in his friend group, I guess, that I got this really strong sense early on that she's ultimately his catalyst, right? His Tyler, right? Like what Tyler was for me, this girl it was for him, or has been for him at some degree. And there are time frames where she comes back to mind. And of course, the first time it did is like this really uncomfortable thing. And I just get like, I just felt very strongly that they had some sort of connection. I didn't know if they dated or whatever, or if they were just friends, but there was something about the connection, and it bothered me, right? So, but it's like, of course he's going to have his own life. I had my own life. Why wouldn't he have his own life, right? But then, trying to make sense of this connection. But it was one of those things, it's like, well, this isn't mine. I have to let this go, right? And it's come up, like I said, it's come up multiple times. And there will be big spaces where it's not a thing. But like the last time it came up, I very much leaned into the feeling of, connecting with my counterpart's energy, and, it's like, look, I forgive whatever's happened. It's like, this isn't mine. I don't feel like I really have any space to have any say-so in this, especially since I haven't actually met the dude, right? So it's like, I feel like I just need to put that intention out there. Look, whatever it was, I forgive you. I forgive you for not knowing that I exist at a time I didn't know you existed either, kind of a thing. But one of the things that has come up on this process is, so I got to thinking about how, the catalyst thing, right? So Tyler is basically, for me, the off-brand version of him, right? So it's like, for him to be my exact match, Tyler is the thing that's the callback to the exact match that, because I always felt really super connected to Tyler. I absolutely loved him. And like the biggest thing is, it's like, at a time where my life was very much showing me not love, it's like somehow I still loved this person, even though it's like we were friends from afar more than anything, because I was afraid to get close to him at all. I was afraid to have to be able to have any of those conversations, because I didn't want my sadness oozing into his life and contaminating his life, right? So like all the times I felt like I was meant to connect to him and I resisted, it was because I didn't want my sadness oozing into his life, but I feel very strongly that we've had many other past lives together, and that, we've had all the connections or whatever. And, in the space of, so the counterpart connection, I've heard people talk about how if you are meant to meet your twin flame in this lifetime, it's like, that's basically your last lifetimes, right? Because you've learned the lessons that basically were the things that kept you apart from your exact match. Because, once you reconnect to your exact match, you're basically merging back together in the soul space, right? So that's like last lifetime stuff. And I've talked on here many times about how I feel very strongly that this is probably my last life, as far as all that goes. But yeah, so it's like, just because, my counterpart wasn't with me in other lifetimes at the same level, because we've always been together. It's, more guiding from the energetic spaces, right? So maybe we weren't incarnated at the same time, but in this one we happen to be, because there's a reason for like all the things that we've had to learn and be navigating through in this space. So anyway, so I was thinking, if, Tyler was the off-brand version of him for me, this girl is basically the off-brand version of me for him, right? So that being the case, the last time I went through all this stuff where she came to mind and was processing through that, I felt really bad. And it's like, okay, now I think I need to reframe, and this was the sort of perspective at that time was, if she's the off-brand version of me for him, he's also the off-brand version of somebody else for her, right? So it's not fair that, he would be on brand for her and me, while she's off brand for him. It's like that's not fair. Right? That's a shitty situation. So it's like, if it's not an exact match, there's a reason for it, right? So in other lifetimes where the exact match wasn't there, then of course I feel like they've probably also had several lives together, right? Past lives. And thus that connection that I keep feeling. But anyway, so I was thinking about that this morning and processing through this whole thing. And one of the things that came to mind was, I talked about the live stream that he was doing the other day, and I accidentally, I was trying to send a little heart react when he had a thing for, he like pulled his dog into the picture for a minute. But it's like, for some reason that wasn't showing up on my my little live feed thing or live stream thing. That, however, it's usually down there by the damn comments, and for whatever reason it wasn't there. So I ended up accidentally backing out of the thing because I couldn't find it, and I hit the wrong button and ended up bouncing me out. But when I went back into it, there was this moment where I see my name on the screen because it says I just joined. And there was this moment that he was looking at the screen, and it looked like he was looking at the screen when it was still on there, and there was this moment, it's like my heart jumped. I mentioned that the other day. It's like there was this moment where it felt like my heart jumped, and then I was wondering, it's like, is this me or is this him? And I'm picking up on it, right? This, because we're directly connected, and especially the more junk you clear, the more of these connections you're able to make, right? So then I'm spending time thinking about this space, and then I'm questioning, because in that space, one of the things that came up when I was writing about it, okay, when I was getting ready for bed that night and thinking about like that moment, for whatever reason, like I ended up crying for a little bit again, and I think that was one of the biggest pieces with it, was this kind of a triggering thing for me. It's like there's something there that I still need to work through, right? So I start processing through this stuff, and like, the anxiety of the possibility of actually, if he did see that that I entered the thing and there was any kind of awareness to, like, I don't know that it's at the forefront. I'm pretty confident it's not at the forefront of his mind, since the divine masculine aspect is, more in the physical space, while the feminine aspect is operating more in the upper chakras, right? So it's like everything that's going on at this energetic level, I'm very much aware of it, but how much of it is he directly aware of for in this physical space? It's like that. That's another piece of what I was processing through this morning. So I was thinking about if, so there's this moment where at some level he saw my little screen name pop up on the thing. And maybe he wasn't immediately aware of it, but at a soul level, he definitely saw it, right? And for that to be the case, that's inspiring me to continue the work, right? So I talked about, like, I had all this anxiety come up and like randomly started crying that night as I was thinking through it and kind of writing through it. And it was like this sort of panic about the possibility of being seen, right? Of him actually seeing that I'm in the space. And, so there was the whole processing through things. And, I was thinking, it's like, okay, if I could ask him anything that would sort of inspire him to awaken to the fact that I'm there, like at this energetic level, that it's like it triggers something for him to, essentially activate this awareness, what would I say, right? And like the one thing that came up was least favorite vegetable. It's like, it's like, I'm holding that one. Excuse me. But it's like, it's like we could do better. Anyway, so at this space where we're already connected, and, we're very much, I'm sorting through this anxiety, and I have this moment where, I'm doubting myself, and, I get the sense of his energy with me very strongly. It's like I felt very securely wrapped in a hug, and, like him say that, he's never going to give up on me, and everything's going to be fine, and he will always love me. And then it's like it was enough space to be able to breathe and, start pondering this other thing. Okay, if we're going to say something, it's got to be, what are we going to say that's going to stick in his mind and, make him aware that something more is going on, right? And what ended up coming to mind, which was kind of silly in and of itself, was just, I started thinking about this interview that I saw. I don't even know who it was, but I saw this little clip of something a few years ago where somebody said they like talking to kids because, never when you're an adult does it, do any adults ask you what your favorite dinosaur is, right? So then I was kind of having this moment. It's like, your favorite dinosaur, right? And I was enjoying this whole thing. Of course, my favorite's always been the Triceratops because it's got my name in it, even if it's spelled wrong, and then this morning I was kind of writing about that stuff too. And it's like, remembering back to this, I think, the kid's 5th birthday, after I married my ex. I think it was 5th. He was really into dinosaurs. So we were doing, or I did these shirts with just a play on the different names and whatnot. And, like I had one that said Triceratops, but it has like dashes with my name spelled in, so Sarah instead of the Cera, in the middle of it. And then the kid had a shirt that said Tylosaurus Rex. So I was like thinking about those. And as I'm thinking through this stuff this morning, it's like, as ridiculous as it is, the sleep shirt that I had on had a velociraptor wearing a skating helmet and roller skates. So it's like, you'd think I'm more into dinosaurs than I really am, but just like the way it started like showing up, it's like, because it's little silly things. Like I have a sweatshirt in the bathroom right now that has a little dragon dinosaur looking thing. It's just a silly little cartoon one. My aunt got it and gave it to me a couple years ago, and it's like, I loved the little dinosaur dude on it, so of course I wear it. But then like the shirt, that was something that, okay, we got really into, when I was playing roller derby, we saw like the people with the blow up dinosaur costumes. I got really into the idea of we should put on roller skates and go do that. Right? Just wear these blow up costumes and like run around at the freaking park or whatever. Anyway, so like a group of us were joking about it for a while. It never happened. I'm not dead yet, so it's still mine. But it was just one of those things that, was kind of this bonding thing. So it's like, this is kind of silly. But then I found, or somebody showed me a roller derby team that had a shirt with a raptor on it. And it had the helmet and the roller skates. And it's like, I need that shirt. And the shirt's like a 2X. So it's like not something I'm going to wear like during my normal existence because it's kind of baggy. But it's like, yeah, I'm going to sleep in that one because that one's comfy. But yeah, like when I was writing about it this morning, I was freaking wearing that shirt. It's like, oh, hey. So it makes sense that would be something silly that I would do. And I think that was the bigger part, was just that it's a silly thing that I enjoy the idea of, putting on a freaking dinosaur blow up costume and running around the park in roller skates. That sounds entertaining to me. And yeah, so like, it actually makes perfect sense that would be something that that would speak to me or speak of me if I shared it in that situation and actually, because one of the bigger concerns I had in the space is taking up space, right? Being able to say the silly thing and not worry about the other people that are like, who the fuck is this chick, right? Just being able to come into a space and feel comfortable enough to take up space, because even though it's an online space, that's a struggle, right? That's something that I've struggled with my entire life, is being okay with taking up space. So, so then, and like, I feel like it was very much a collaborative effort on coming up with that idea too, because, it was in this space of, the anxiety and, having this conversation at this other level with, this person that I haven't actually met in my life, but yet we're still connected, right? But then what I was thinking this morning was, it's like, okay, so why is this girl coming back up? It's like, she's come up periodically. And then I was thinking about it, it's like, I've felt a lot lately like I needed more rest. Like, I feel like I'm not sleeping a lot, but at the same time, it's like, like this morning, okay, I slept from like 12 to 3, right? And then I wake up and I can't go back to sleep, and I'm just laying there. So I get up and I sit up in bed and I just start writing for a little bit. And I eventually get to a point where it's like, all right, I think I'm ready to go back to sleep or try to sleep again. So I try that, and I might doze for a little bit. And it's like, I feel very, like I still feel like I'm having dreams, but I don't feel like I'm really sleeping deeply. But like some of the dreams that are coming through are kind of weird too. But I feel like they're communicating something as well. But then, like, regardless of if I doze off or not, it's like my mind is kind of just, it's like I'm letting things percolate, to just kind of process through, not really trying to grab onto any one thing, but I'm really tired. And it's like, so even though I was mostly awake, I didn't get out of bed until 2:00 this afternoon. Right. And of course it's like, I'm in a Saturday, it's 8 degrees outside. I'm not feeling like spending a whole lot of time out there. So, like, I intentionally did not get more ready than this. I got dressed because I totally, love this shirt. I totally, plan to go out and throw the thing for the kid that I'm not going to say because she's looking at me now. Like, we're going to do that again, and it's cold outside, so of course I want to have, like, layers on. So I got, like, 3.5 layers of pants because I have shorts on over the top of it, and 4 shirts, and then I'll put a sweatshirt on and my coat. So it's like, I'm ready, so we can go do that. But it's like, I'm not doing anything else. I have no desire to leave the house and go anywhere. But then, like, so as I'm thinking through this stuff, it's like, all right, so I'm not going to do a whole lot, but I know I'm going to potentially do this. And of course they went next door, so here we are. But as I was thinking about it, it's like, okay, so maybe, okay, so I mentioned that when I said the thing, he responded. It was like the last question before he closed out the live stream the other day. And like, it looked like it grabbed his attention. Now, if you take into consideration this piece of where I believe that we're actually conversing at this soul level, right? So we had the actual conversation about this dinosaur thing, and it's not like somewhere not at the forefront of his mind, right? But yet it's the last question, and it's me being there, taking up space and saying the thing that speaks to something silly that I enjoy, right? That we've had this conversation with, or a conversation about at the soul level. So it's like, what I feel like happened, because it was, the exact same way when I happened into the live stream 2021, that made me start having to do all this healing work, right? I said something at the very end, he responded, and the fact that he saw me, or he saw what I said, freaked me out, right? And then it's like I was immediately confronted with this awareness of how unsafe I felt in my own body, right? And then it's been a matter of healing. And like that what started in 2021, and I didn't have any idea who he was to me at that point in time, right? So it's like been a process. But because it was the last thing said and he responded, it felt like it's kind of a callback to that as well, right? So there's this whole idea of mirroring, and, you know, the feminine goes first and then the masculine goes next. But so I'm thinking about it, and it's like, what if this girl coming to mind again is because he is having to process through something else, right? Because part of it is holding the container. So I've been doing a whole lot of my process, and then, you know, I need rest. I need space to just like not deal with any of that, and, you know, to make connections that I'm writing through and all this stuff. And then this other thing comes up because that space where I'm resting and, you know, just taking time to breathe and to make connections is essentially me holding space for him to do the same. So the things that, you know, is, so if this piece of where he's processing through something with this connection with this girl is coming up for me, maybe it's because it's coming up for him and it's something that he's, you know, he's working through some layer of healing that pertains to something that came up in that connection, or just maybe isn't necessarily, maybe that's just something, you know, sort of flag for me that something's going on at that level. I don't know. But then I was thinking, it's like, okay, so because every time she's come up, it's been at a time where I'm more in the rest and holding space. So what if that's what it's like for me to hold the container for him to do some of his process? You know, and so since I said the thing that caught him off guard, I think, at the end of his one live stream. Now, granted, I've only been on like a couple of times since then, but I haven't seen him around and he hasn't posted anything since then. So I've kind of been wondering if maybe like there's some like additional layers of processing that he's currently going through. You know, but that was the connection. It's like, so what if this back and forth and this holding space thing, it's like that holding space piece that I'm aware that it's like, okay, now I'm just going to rest because now I need time to just sit back, breathe, and rest. What if that's how it looks to hold the container for him, right? And so like when we're connecting at this energetic level, it's absolutely happening and we're absolutely in contact, even if, you know, maybe he couldn't necessarily pick me out in a crowd yet. I don't know. But there's some, I mean, yeah. We're not approaching that one. It's like there's too much else with that. But yeah, but that's kind of where I've been thinking through this morning. But anyway, this is already long, so I'm going to go ahead and stop talking. And probably go deal with this thing that's getting ready to yell at me as soon as I say the thing, because she's ready, right? So if we say, as always, I appreciate you, and until the next time, see ya.